Hello, welcome to the Daily Bell Ringer, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Constitutional Convention. All right, the Constitutional Convention takes place, of course, in 1787, and if you remember back to a couple other bell ringers that we did, we kind of went through some of the things of the reasons why we needed a constitution. But just in case you didn't see some of those bell ringers, real quickly, I was just going to cover what were some of the reasons why we need a new constitution back in, well, right after the Revolutionary War. Of course, the Revolution ends in officially the Treaty of Paris signed in September of 1783. But here by 1787, there was really a need for a new constitution. And really the main reason there was is because we had a constitution we were already under known as the Articles of Confederation. Well, the Articles of Confederation was very weak. It gave most of the power to the state governments. And one of the biggest problems was that the federal government or the national government could not collect taxes. So that was a big issue for this new government. And so in 1786 into early 1787, we have this thing known as Shay's Rebellion, which there was another bell ringer about that, of course, as well, that kind of proved, how weak the federal government was, that they couldn't really do anything about this rebellion that was taking place in Massachusetts. All right, so in February of 1787, the Continental Congress, which again, it was only a one-house legislature at that time, the Continental Congress basically called for a meeting to draw up a new constitution. All right, so they called for delegates or representatives from each one of the states to come to this meeting in Philadelphia and for them to start drawing up a new constitution. All right, so there at the convention. The convention officially began on May 25th of 1787, which was actually 1 week after the date that it was agreed upon that it was going to start, but the only delegates to show up on the original date, which was May 14th, was Pennsylvania and Virginia. So it kind of shows this was kind of a mess to begin with when they get together. But once they do get together there on May 25th of 1787, one of their first things they do is, of course, they elect a president of the convention. And they decide George Washington should be the president of the convention. Now, keep in mind, this is not the president of the United States because, we haven't really created that office of the presidency yet. There wasn't an office of the presidency under the Articles of Confederation. George Washington is simply the president of the convention. All right. And then they also, spend some time, setting out ground rules, which one of the big rules was that all of their meetings had to be in secret or had to be secrecy about all of their meetings and the proceedings that were going on. So there were actually a total of 74 delegates or, people invited to come to this convention, but really only 55 showed up. And of that 55 that showed up, only 39 actually signed the Constitution when they were all done with it. Now, some familiar faces who are there at the Constitutional Convention. Of course, you've got George Washington, obviously, but then also you have 81-year-old Benjamin Franklin. This is really going to be Benjamin Franklin's last appearance in American history, I guess you'd say. He's the oldest delegate there. And then also you have future President James Madison that's there. But, there are other important people there as well. But some people who are surprisingly not there at the Constitutional Convention, one is John Adams. All right, John Adams, who you'd think would be there since he was so involved in the writing of the Declaration of Independence, he was actually serving as a foreign minister to Britain at the time that this Constitutional Convention was convened. Likewise, another guy that was huge in the writing of the Declaration of Independence, in fact, the primary author of the Declaration, Thomas Jefferson, he wasn't there either. He was over in France serving as a foreign minister to France. All right, and then some other big familiar faces that did not show up here at the Constitutional Convention. We have Sam Adams, John Hancock, Patrick Henry, all that were, instrumental in the Revolution and, the writing of the Declaration and the Continental Congress, but all of them had been invited to come to this convention, but had denied coming because they felt like this convention might possibly create too strong of a federal government, or basically what they were really concerned of is they thought that this might actually create a monarchy again, and so they basically denied the invitation to come to this convention. All right, now, maybe in a future bell ringer, we're going to spend some time looking at what were some of the different plans of government that were introduced here at the convention. But for now, hopefully you learned something here about a little bit about the Constitutional Convention. We'll talk more about what they decided on as we get through a little bit more detail here about the Constitution. All right, so hopefully you learned something there, and thanks a lot.